All right, welcome to the December 10th combined meeting of the Haddonfield School District Board of Education. We are going to call the meeting to order and ask Mike to take roll.
Mr. Bedford. Ms. Brooking.
Here.
Ms. Hogue.
Here.
Ms. Hogerl. Ms. Kuttner. Ms. Paoli.
Here.
Mr. Vecchio.
Here.
Vice President Seidel.
Here.
President Sangillo.
Here. Okay, let's rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mike, would you read us the statement concerning open public meetings?
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Superintendent of Schools in the following manner. On January 10th, 2020, notice of this meeting was posted on the interior of the school administration offices, 1 Lincoln Avenue, Haddonfield. Written notice was submitted and filed with the Haddonfield Borough Clerk, and notices were faxed to the Courier Post and mailed to the Retrospect newspaper.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, we are trying to get back to normal even when we're in hybrid, so we have some student commendations. I'm going to let Shannon take us out and present us with what's happening, but it's a pleasure to see Zoe, Lucas, Sydney, and Kenley here with us. They look happy. What's going on here, Shannon? Tell us what's happening.
Good evening, Board of Education and families. We have been working really hard at Central School to celebrate. I'm sorry, I'm getting a call.
She was stirring the pasta.
Sorry about that. So we have been working for the last several years at Central Elementary School on our 7 habits of happy kids. And our lessons focus on what students can do from a social and emotional perspective to make themselves better and make them leaders within our school. We are moving to the ruler lessons and the ruler platform later this year. But in the months of November, December, and January, we're going to be focusing on 3 of what we think to be our most important habits. So in November, we focused on habit number 3, which is to put first things first, to show responsibility, and to really think about what our priorities are and how to set them within our homes and within our schools. So it is an honor tonight to recognize a few of our students who really embody this trait, habit number 3, responsibility and putting first things first. First up, I want to congratulate Lucas Hyman. He consistently comes prepared to school to learn each day, regardless of whether he's virtual or in person. He is responsible, communicative, and diligent. So Lucas, if you could just say your name and you can unmute if you would like to say something else.
My name is Lucas Hyman. Today I feel excited to accept this award. The best part of this year is the days I get to go to school, Thursday and Friday. I'm grateful for all of your hard work, especially my teacher, Miss Hood.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Lucas. All right, Lucas, you can mute. Thank you so much. That was so nice. Next up, I want to honor Zoe Baskies. Zoe Baskies is a great all-around student. She has a positive attitude every day. You can always catch her with a smile on her face. Zoe works so well with her peers. She's attentive in class, and she always goes the extra mile to put her best foot forward. So congratulations, Zoe. You can unmute and say your name, and if you want to say anything else.
I'm Zoe Baskies, and thank you for this award. I'm very honored and proud, and I love Central School.
Thanks, Zoe. We love having you at Central, too. Our next student is Kenley Singleton. Kenley consistently comes to school regularly and eager to learn. She always tackles new challenges. She starts her work independently and completes her assignments. She uses her free time to further her understanding of concepts and practice all of her different fluencies like reading and math. One of the best parts about Kenley is that she encourages her classmates to push themselves and to be better, leading by example, and how she encourages the rest of her classmates with her words. So congratulations to Kenley. You can unmute and say your name and say anything you want to.
Hi, I'm Kenley Singleton, and I'm really proud of earning this award. Something that I really love about Central School is getting to be in school, especially around this time, and I really love math.
Awesome, Kenley. Thank you so much. We have one more student to nominate tonight. I'm just trying to look through the names to see if she's here. I don't see her, but I will read her information anyway. So our last student that we are recognizing tonight is Sydney Schultz. We are so impressed with how responsible she is, both in school and virtually. She attends all her Google Meets and is always prepared with her materials. She puts extra effort into every assignment that she turns in, and she sets time aside to make sure that every item is completed and worked on to the best of her ability. Sydney is a role model of what it means to set priorities and high expectations of oneself. So congratulations to Sydney Schultz. Thank you so much for letting us present these awards tonight. Typically, we would present our awards at our community meeting, but since we're not having those this year, it was a great extra honor to be able to present them at the Board of Education meeting. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Shannon.
Is this Evie?
Eddie, yes.
Evie is our student representative from the high school. And Evie, you have a tough act to follow here because these kids were outstanding from Central School. Let's see what you can do from the high school, all right?
All right, well, I don't think I can top that. You guys are amazing. But I am Evie Ellis, and I wanted to start by thanking everybody for being here tonight, albeit virtual. And we're meeting right now, right as the high school is returning to hybrid schooling as of Monday, December 7th. As students, we're really excited for this. The hybrid schooling is, very good for us. So excited about that. We are a little bit alarmed by the amount of large gatherings and parties by some of our peers. There was a senior sleep out that happened. But despite this, we've been able to thrive virtually. We're wrapping up Spirit Month right now, which included dress-up days, a music video, fundraising, a scavenger hunt, a paw print signing, as well as a canned food drive in which we collected over 3,200 pounds of canned goods. So a return to normalcy to some extent there. In addition, we are hoping to have a homecoming ceremony on next Thursday, and we have nominated homecoming court. The candidates are Maya Feinstein, Ava Narducci, Katrina Edwards, Audrey Andrus, Sebastiano Caruso, Elias DeMattis, Danny Cavana, Mark Laprosito, Makai Rippey, and myself. Finally, we are interviewing new Board of Education representatives in the coming weeks. So just thank you all for having me, Danny and Mark. You will be having new people in the coming year. So stay safe and have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, Evie.
Thank you. Thank you, Evie. Thanks, Evie.
Yep.
You did well. Very good. Well, what is a senior sleep out? What's a senior sleep out? What does that mean?
So normally it's our like a lot of people in our grade go out. I think it's the half day in Spirit Week and sleep outside. But this year, and it's never a school sanctioned thing, but this year it still happened for some reason. People got out of their cars and stuff. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. What's it?
Central School, these kids can go do their homework now.
Yeah, if you, all of you, elementary or high school, if you guys want to, you're welcome to stay with us on the Google Meet, but you can also log off and go enjoy your homework and evening with your family if you like. So, because we're going to roll on, we have a couple of presentations. We have our HIV annual, biannual report and back to school survey reports from Dr. Murray. So, Sandy Horowitz, are you on with us? Sandy?
I don't see her on.
I saw her.
Oh, she's on there, she's like, yeah.
All right, Sandy, let us regale us with our biannual HIV report.
Sandy?
Sandy, you're muted, just if you don't know. All right, why don't we lead with Colleen?
Sure. Oh, here comes Sandy.
Oh, here she is. I jokingly, not so jokingly, challenged our administrator.
All right, I have to talk on my phone, and I'm going to try to present on the computer.
All right.
Then mute your computer. And Sandy, mute your computer. Do you just use the phone?
Okay. No, the computer's muted.
Mute.
All right, I'm going to log out of the computer.
Just let me get this phone.
All right, I'm having a little trouble. If I log out of the computer, I won't be able to present the PowerPoint.
You sound better.
Yeah, but I'm in another room.
Wow.
Oh yeah, turn the volume down on your computer again.
Okay, I'll try that.
You got 30 seconds.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's see.
And if it makes you feel better, they were having the same problem on Fox 29 last night with the sports reporter. You're not alone.
All right, hold on. See if I can get this to work.
Yeah, that's all. For the purpose of the minutes.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Ms. Horowitz, if you like, I can show your presentation and you can speak to it. That will be easier.
Well, I could do that, but I thought, if I hit present, it would show my screen.
You have to choose what you want to show.
It's up. I see it. All right, Gina, if you could put it up. Let's start with page 1.
It's up.
What's up, Sandy?
Okay, this is the biannual superintendent's report on harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Next page. Okay, this is period 1. It covers September 1st through January 1st. Next page. We have 2 new anti-bullying specialists, one at Central School, Jamie Ledford, and one at Tatum School, Jessica Plesniak, and the remaining anti-bullying specialists remain the same. Next slide. Each anti-bullying specialist takes a 5-part anti-bullying specialist certification program and also takes a course on the role of the school climate team. And of course, I'm available to help them with any questions, and I guide them in their investigations, especially the new ones. Okay, next slide. This is the threshold test in deciding whether or not an incident is HIB or not. The same definition has been in place for many years. You've seen this already. Next slide. This is the district data for period 1. These are total reports of HIB. We received a total of 5 reports. Next slide. Okay. Even though we had 5 reports, the total number of reports that passed the initial assessment and then were investigated were 3. And out of those 3, there was only 1 case of HIB. And that was at the high school. And you can see the breakdown of the total reports of HIB that did not advance to investigation. 1 at Central and 1 at Tatum. Okay, next slide. This slide shows the total reports of investigated HIB, which I said is 3 cases. 1 was investigated at Tatum, but was not HIB. 2 were investigated at the high school. 1 was not HIB, and 1 was HIB. So the total number of confirmed cases in the district was 1 this period. Next slide. Now this slide gives you the reasons why a case failed the initial assessment. In the 1 case at Central, the case did not show a distinguishing characteristic. The 2 cases at Tatum, 1 failed the initial assessment and did not go forth for an investigation because it also had no distinguishing characteristic. And the 1 case that was investigated and was not HIB because it did not create a substantial disruption. And the 1 case in at the high school that was not HIB but was investigated also did not pass because of no substantial disruption. And the 1 case that was confirmed to be HIB was due to race, but we'll get to that in a second. All right, next slide. Of the 3 reports of alleged HIB, 2 were of race and 1 sexual orientation. Next slide. And like I said, of the confirmed HIB cases, we just had 1 at the high school. Next slide. And that was due to race. And let's go down to the next slide. Discipline and remediation. That stays the same as it's been. Discipline is determined upon our code of conduct, and remediation for offenders and victims is designed by principals and is custom tailored to the students and circumstances. The remaining slides are the activities that the schools are engaged in to improve school climate, eliminate HIB, and to provide for equity and diversity. So all contributing to a positive school climate, which is the number one factor for incurring HIB. Well, it's number one factor not to incur HIB, I should say. Okay, so Gina, you can go through those slides, and it just shows everybody the types of activities that the principals and the teachers are involved in. And it's quite lengthy. I think I have about seven pages. Any questions? I think that the fact that we're not in school, of course, supports the low number of reports that we received, and the just a single case of HIB. But I would like to think that if we were in school, we would have the same low numbers. Any questions?
Yeah, the cases that are not determined to be HIB, and I know that HIB, I thought there was discussion about broadening the scope of that. Am I mistaken? Is it not? I thought we were talking about extending it, because it is a very narrow scope to include something in HIB.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I thought the state, I know it's a state issue, but is there a discussion of extending that at all? I thought there was at one point, which is why I'm asking.
Yeah, usually it's multiple factors that are not present. If it's just a distinguishing characteristic, then we look much more closely at the report and at the circumstances. You know, we're not going to really stand on ceremony if there could possibly even be a distinguishing characteristic, say. And sometimes you don't find out what that distinguishing characteristic is until you conduct an investigation. So a lot of times during the initial assessment, we do investigate to make sure that we are not closing the case or stopping the progression of the case because of something that we may not know about. So if it's the distinguishing characteristic that is preventing the advancement of the case, we conduct an investigation within the initial assessment to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and there is no distinguishing characteristic at all.
Now, in cases where there's not a distinguishing characteristic and it's ruled out as not being HIB, is that where are we still following the code of conduct and there is still some kind of dealing with the issue?
Oh, yes, yes.
State
yes.
classified as HIB, but it is dealt with internally.
Yes, it's deemed student conflict, and the principals handle these cases as though it was regular disciplinary incident in school.
Okay.
It just doesn't get the designation of HIB. But consequences and remediations are implemented.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, period 2, of course, will be after we return from break. Period 2 starts, and at the end of the year, I'll be giving an update as to how we did in session 2. Period 2.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Just give me a call anytime.
Okay. Good night. All right, Colleen, take us away.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. We wanted to share the results of the Back to School survey that you might recall taking part of in October. So we conducted 3 surveys, one with parents, one with teachers, and one with students. And this was from October 13th to the 28th was the window. We analyzed it and then we shared it with the teachers on November 17th and November 19th. The week after that, the principals each shared their results with their schools. and had discussions about the data. And that's the results of those surveys, that's what we're presenting tonight. So when we were looking through the results, we wanted to use a protocol. We asked ourselves, what do we see? What does the data suggest? And what does this mean for improvement? The response rates are, continue to be very, very good. These are the response rates across the district. Anything over 39% is seen as trustworthy. The more time in school question came up a lot. We talked about time in school, and that's parents overwhelmingly wanted their kids to be in school more. Keeping in mind this survey was done before the big spike with COVID, but overwhelmingly parents want more time in school. Students want more time in school. The majority of our students did. Teachers, some do, some don't. So
What was the response rate so we can understand the numbers as we see them? Were they over 35%?
Sure, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, they were the response rates.
Yep.
Oh,
So,
I didn't look at the label. I apologize.
No worries. So parent response rates, were well above 50%. Students were kind of across the board, but over 50% for the most part. And teachers were also over 50% for the most part. So those are something to be proud of. And so parent findings, we had 1,730 responses from parents. This is the response rates from just the parents across the schools. This is the parent response rates by grade of their child. And then this is the response rate by what model the parent had their child enrolled in. So 89% had children in the hybrid model. 11% had children remote only. Those numbers have changed since then. So the learning, thanks to Dr. Priolo, and he gave me these numbers today, the learning model as of today, 79% are in the hybrid model, 21% are in the full virtual model, and that's a 12% increase since this survey was conducted. Yes.
I'm just curious, do you know what influenced that change to full virtual? Is it that people are hesitant with the winter months, or they just never came back after we had time off?
It's tied to the spike in numbers, right?
Quarantine count or no?
That's not counting quarantine, no. So yeah, it's concern about the and we have families that are also going full virtual with the holidays coming up, so they're using it as a quarantine period. So there's a variety of reasons.
So the parent themes fell into, for the open-ended questions, fell into the categories of time, communication, what to keep and what to change. As it pertains to time, screen time was talked about quite a bit. The priorities of how the time is spent was talked about. The structure of the school day, teacher strain is still a concern for parents, and forced curricular focus, and that's as a good thing. So parents are seeing that there's less wasted time, if you will. Communication, parents appreciate the frequent and personalized communication. Parents want us to keep the flexibility, the student engagement. They love that learners are becoming more responsible, the safety measures they appreciate, and the personalization. What they want us to change is screen time. You'll see there's an asterisk next to that because that's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Quite a lot of parents want more live streaming, especially in the younger grades, but equally the same amount of parents want far less screen time overall. So those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but it makes it difficult. Parents want to make sure that work does not go unacknowledged. Parents want kids outside more often for class if possible, and they overwhelmingly want kids in school more. But again, this was in October. So I'm skipping over some slides to make sure that we can keep with the timeline. Teacher findings. The themes of the teacher findings are strain, office hours, cameras, and personalization. So as it pertains to strain, teachers commented frequently on the taxing nature of making double plans. They're essentially planning for in-person and also remote learning at the same time. Teachers really appreciate the office hours. They find them to be highly effective for personalizing learning. They also said that it's increasing learner responsibility and student self-advocacy, which is a social emotional trait that teachers are seeing more of. Cameras, teachers are talking about if it's on, if it's off. It's hard to tell about student engagement, whether the camera is on or off. So there have been some great discussions at each school level on the topic of cameras. Teachers are getting a lot more creative about measuring engagement in other ways, just besides seeing the student's face on the camera. But it's still a little bit of a thorn. Personalization, teachers are seeing that the small class size, the office hours, the flexible scheduling have led to greater personalization. The student findings, and again, I'm skipping over some slides, but this will be on the website as well. The students, the themes were time with friends, self-pacing, appreciation, and PPE. Time with friends, we heard that from the student representatives this morning. They really appreciate being able to spend time with friends. Self-pacing, Wednesdays are generally, the kids are learning to manage their own time and they like it, although some don't, and some really don't like it. Appreciation, teacher support, and family time. It's really sweet to hear the kids talk about appreciating getting more time with their family. PPE, the students do not like social distancing and masks, but they understand it. So a little bit on student SEL, 38% feel connected to other students, 44% feel connected to adults at school, 89% feel that they have an adult they can go to if they need help, and 21% feel that the hardest part of this is time management, and that was flushed out in the 3 response answers where they talked about, my puppy keeps bothering me, my sister keeps getting in my way, I can't finish my work in time. So we obviously want to improve those feeling connected numbers. So just a few interesting quotes, and then we'll talk about next steps. A central parent said, kids love being in school, masks and all. An elementary student said, I like learning from home, I get to see my family more. A Tatum parent said, way too much screen time is required by school teachers, which is detrimental to my child's health and social emotional well-being. A high school teacher said block scheduling, mornings with office hours, afternoons is somewhat private school model that seems to provide both opposite type students, those with very high or very low achievement, and promotes SEL-like time management skills. An elementary teacher said the elementary grade level collaboration has been inspirational and I truly believe will continue in any model. The last quote, the flexibility has been helpful. My child missed 2 days of in-person school. However, they did not miss any class time since they were able to sign in virtually. So the rest of these quotes and slides you can look at on the website, but I just wanted to talk about what now. Some immediate changes, we've added teacher-student time back in for the elementary schools on Wednesdays. We were hesitant to do that because teachers, especially at the elementary level, seem to have more resources, manipulatives that they have to organize and just streamline. And so we wanted to make sure that they had that collaboration time to be able to, manage it all. They're getting their bearings, and so we've added that time back in on Wednesdays. 4th grade has added a live stream session to match the 5th grade. So they now have 3 live stream sessions a day. And so what next? We're committed to gathering and analyzing data from multiple points to be able to really tell the true story of what's going on so that we can improve. So we're working with Penn GSE that's facilitated through the South Jersey Data Leaders Partnership. And we're going to collect data from benchmarks, district factor J comparisons of benchmarks, grades, attendance. If the NJSLAs go off, we'll use that obviously. Social emotional surveys, teacher surveys, and focus groups. We'll use that to try to figure out, we want to make sure that we harness everything wonderful that's been happening as we try to hopefully transition back to more face-to-face learning. Any questions?
Has there been discussion around doing more live streaming for the elementary schools, but not making it mandatory so that those who feel it would be beneficial could use it and those who want less screen time wouldn't be forced to use it? And are there thoughts? And it's okay if you haven't discussed it, I'm just.
It's kind of what happened in the fourth grade is that, it started to happen a little bit. It's difficult, it's a really difficult thing to approach because the scheduling, it's like a true dance, like the scheduling that's going on where the teachers need to meet with so many kids one-on-one on a daily basis, and they need to have, small group instruction. It's really, really difficult for them to schedule it. But if you saw a teacher's schedule, they're constantly with students, all the time. So adding that live stream, it sounds great and it would kind of maybe reach more people, but that personalization that we're going for, where the kids are getting that, so like even Salman Khan, the guy who made Khan Academy, he even says, my videos are just, take away my videos and give me teacher relationship over that anytime. And so like the teacher doing live streaming is a little bit like Khan Academy, but the teacher doing small group instruction and the one-to-one instruction is much more personalized, and that's what we're going for. But the cost is that the teacher's time is used. So, but Heather, I think what you're asking is, are we really thinking about the schedule in a creative way and trying to get more creative about adding in more time with the teacher and
Time with the teacher, and also time to I guess to keep the children busy in a productive way. I don't know, and you could correct me or other parents could correct me. I don't have a child in elementary school. I know in the beginning of the year, it seemed like to some parents that they wish their kids had more instruction. I don't know if we're now at the point where it's satisfactory or if there's still gaps, but you provided a good explanation as to why there's downtime. And so now the next question in my head is, are they given something to occupy them in a productive way rather than just busy work during the downtime?
I mean, that is the dream. That is the goal. You hit the nail on the head. Really.
Can you just also just add a little bit about the teacher-student time back in on Wednesdays? What was it before and what is it now?
So before, each of the grade level teams met for an hour a week on Wednesdays. So that hour, except for one Wednesday a month, is being yielded back to student time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Meredith. We'll move to board committee reports. And I again, I've asked the chairs to help me. We have not met curriculum.
Yes, we did.
Since last week?
Yeah, so we met on December 1st. You were there.
I was. It's all blurred, dude.
Oh, that's okay. So actually we met on December 1st. A couple of things that you'll see on the proposals, in the voting section tonight will be new courses and that's things that we discussed. Theater at the middle school level, we had course proposals that we wanted to advance to the full board for a vote. This was an exciting program to introduce more theater arts into their, they've restructured to the Bulldog block and now they're looking for more types of activities that happen inside of there. So the theater for 7th grade and theater for 8th grade, right, are being proposed and they'll be on for the vote. One thing I do want to highlight, we talked about we also talked about an advanced dance curriculum. Now the dance is a requirement of CUSAC. You have to have it in your role, but you don't necessarily have to offer the class. So this is one that we're proposing to satisfy CUSAC. If we did want to offer dance, we will have a course description for it, but it's not going to be offered in the next phase. At the high school level, this is an exciting one for me. You have to have 4 years of math. First, you talk about solving for a value, algebra, solving for 2 values, algebra 2, solving shapes, which would be geometry, and then where do you go? What you have to do is then solve for changes over time, which is calculus, and then not to describe what different versions of calculus there are, but you either measure the change or you either measure the result of change. They're the two different calculuses that you have. Some people then take trigonometry, which is just the study of triangles. But that's all very advanced math. And I'm really excited about a course description, which is, I called it in committee, college math for the non-STEM major. You know, this is the 4th year math requirement and more of a reinforcement for math that everybody needs to know, which is basically a reinforcement of Algebra 2 with probably a sprinkling of trigonometry, because that's the easiest way to measure distance and angle. That this course satisfies that 4th year requirement without really overstretching somebody that doesn't necessarily have that in their future. So super excited for that course. That if it didn't sound it, I'm very excited about putting that forward for a vote. It's on the other side of that. A few years ago, we talked about APs with a purpose. So instead of just stockpiling AP classes, Dr. Musolini had brought into the district with Dr. Murray AP with a purpose, meaning an AP Scholar program. And to satisfy the AP Scholar program, you need 4 AP classes, plus in your 11th grade, you take AP Seminar, which is what we've offered this year for those that are starting in that track. And that's how you learn how to research and you come up with an idea. And now here's the final shoe to drop in that progression, and that is AP research. So this is the senior year capstone project that with your 4 AP classes, your seminar and your research AP, then you become an AP Scholar. And that's something that very few schools offer, and is really a feather in the cap. And as I cavalierly describe it, as AP with a purpose instead of just collecting credits. So where we made changes in the past that somewhat controversial about changing the weight for some classes, this is a really progressive step to earning a credential that very few people will have. That's an AP Scholar.
And Dave, just to weigh in on that, one of the suggestions is that you start that sophomore year and then, so you finish your junior year if possible, and then that way you can actually put that on your college applications your senior year. Just so parents are aware that that's a possibility and encouraged.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And then we discussed, and tonight another thing on the agenda will be the 21-22 calendars. You know, there's been a lot of talk about what happens to snow days. Well, snow days are still in this calendar, and like anything that you have, people say, well, now we have virtual. You know, that eliminates snow days. Well, you can only really take advantage of that if you practice it. So we did have a discussion about how to look at structuring times to practice snow days, just in case we did want to make a virtual kind of push to use them. And that's still a discussion, but and not necessarily needed to be reflected in the calendars.
I just wanted to throw out there, never mind. Move ahead.
Okay.
Play you later.
Then we were debriefed on some of the meetings that happen around the district, new teacher meetings, and then curricular meetings that happen in the high school, and just getting kind of updates on the math committee, social studies committee. We did get another thing I think we're voting on tonight is the introduction to adjustments overall in the curriculum to infuse more LGBTQ inserts into the curricular process. I don't know how to describe that any better, Dr. Murray, right? But it's, you know, it's, yeah, right. The examples and the inspirations behind some of the discussion points, you know, we're aligning them better. And then the last interesting point was navigator report. So we looked and saw what our teachers look like compared to some of our peer districts, and that is their education levels when they come, their education levels that they actually pursue, how many years of service they have in district, and their progression along their guides. that was really interesting. We're stronger than some and others. A comment that I would have made on your presentation, Dr. Murray, was always using the J districts as a group factor benchmark. We're the only southern one. So there's, just like we see in this pandemic, how the state has grouped us into different categories and we're in the Southwest, section when it comes to health. There's also, we're the closest to Philadelphia. A lot of our teachers are coming from, from different areas, and we're not New York, right? So, and we're not North Jersey. So we it's sometimes hard to say, well, it's just because we're in the South. And so maybe there's a chance to broaden who we look at that are still strong districts, maybe, H and I districts that are closer to us, so that we can also understand what our common pressures are when it comes to competing with, corporate jobs in the city of Philadelphia instead of the city of New York, and things like that. So we did talk about how we could better improve our benchmarking process. And the next meeting will be with the new curriculum committee, as President Sangillo circulated out. We'll be doing our committee assignments as part of our reorganization, and the next meeting will be January 6th.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions?
Is it appropriate to thank Mr. Seidel for you've been so wonderful as chair of the curriculum committee? I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's appropriate.
You make it sound like he's going somewhere.
I
He can still be on
know.
it next year.
No, I won't be.
I won't lie it.
He wants to,
But is anything?
yeah,
Do other things.
which I did send an email tonight, just for you to fill out, preferences, committee preferences, so that Dave and I can work on next
So are
week.
you doing that before the reorg meeting, which is the 7th, right? So
Normally
you
that
would
happens
normally
after
not
your-
get that, so you would be at the next meeting, right? Right?
I think we get the data between now and that reorg meeting.
I thought you gave us our assignments at the reorg meeting.
Normally you get
Never mind.
the elected, or whoever is elected gets elected president, vice president, and then you send out the request for the second meeting in January where we get assignments.
Yeah,
All
so.
right, we'll change the date,
You
Dr.
can
Murray.
vote for one more meeting.
You're really set on not going.
You're ready to jump.
Yeah, it's not
That's higher than me.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
the committee's,
Keep them roped in.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I was just wondering, I mean, even if Dave doesn't want to come, someone else can volunteer to come.
8:30.
I'm just.
I'm kidding. Yeah, no, they're actually, you're right, they're not assigned till to the January meeting, but I'd like to give people time to put their feedback in.
And if you want to get super technical, this board dissolves on December 31st, and the new board reinstitutes. So the Haddonfield School District doesn't have a Board of Education between the January 1st and the reorganization meeting. So you actually can't meet. Tell you the truth. I mean, if you really want to get technical about it.
We did not meet the facilities.
Okay. Policy, we met tonight prior to the board meeting. We've been here since 5:30.
So I'll send out minutes in the next couple of days to go over everything we talked about, but important for tonight are the 5 policies for our first reading. They were all pulled from a review of existing policies from last month. And most of them are pretty minor, actually all of them are pretty minor. Like the BOE website, items posted on the website will be approved by the superintendent or designee instead of director of technology. The organizational chart was updated. Gino took care of that, did a beautiful job. This is a big one, policy 2624, the grading system, which we passed back in June. We just amended to make it congruent with the teacher's handbook. So, and for kids' report cards, if you have a high school student, you've seen on the report cards, there are no minuses. So a 90 to a 96 is an A, 97 to 100 is an A plus. So we just modified that. 3281, DIFUS no longer exists. So if a school personnel has notice of an act of abuse or neglect of a child, they report it to the department. children, protection, and pregnancy. So most of them were pretty minor changes. And then we have the second reading mandatory bylaw about remote public board meeting during a declared emergency.
Any questions for Lynn? Thank you. Anything you want to add with communications, Jamie?
No.
Okay. Tom, you have an update for us?
Yep. So two updates. 13A is on the agenda tonight. Approve the memorandum of agreement for a successor collective negotiation agreement with the Haddonfield Education Association. My plan was to have updated the board in executive session about the details of the status of our negotiation, which we are going to go into exec at the end of the public session and then come back in the public session to vote on 13A. So Mike will table 13A during the public vote. I can say that based on conversations and our previous meetings, I am enormously confident in our ability to approve tonight, but it does contain, there is detailed information that I'd like to be able to explain. You have access to it on our version of the agenda, but I'd like to walk everyone through that. But I would like to take the time to thank Mike, who walked everybody through this over and over and over again, to check our math and check his math and check everybody's math. And I want to thank Sean and Rachel, who stuck with us through this process and continued to work at it and didn't let any of our meetings get in the way and kept their eye on the ball. And I think we all kept our eye on the ball and got this done. And now we get to celebrate by getting back in the room in a couple of weeks. Again, thank you to them, and thank you to Adam also for sitting shotgun with me on these last couple of weeks of working through these salary guides, and of course, Justin and Linda, who have supported me way too much through this process. So the only other update that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is 13D, which is we had sent out an RFP for new Labor Relations Council, and we are approving Cape Art and Scatchart tonight. That was just a decision that the negotiations committee had sort of asked the administration to put an RFP out and get some bids just to see who we could lean on for this next round, because not only do we have teachers negotiation for the longer term deal, but we also have administrators contracts to work on. So that's what 13D is. So any questions on the details of the salary guide, we'll talk about it in exec, but if anybody has any questions for public, let me know.
We'll have to figure out a way, I don't know, but we'll have to figure out a way to splice this and we'll have to come back in public and vote.
Yeah.
So the vote will be in public, it'll just be after an executive session explaining. Okay. We have a couple of updates from, Gina, do you have anything? Okay, a couple of updates from Superintendent Klaus.
Okay, so talk about a couple of things today. District status, our behavioral services contract, the snow days. I'm going to follow up with Dave's talking about earlier, and then I feel like the governor, my weekly COVID report. So the district status is that we're opening back to our hybrid model, our cohort model. Our hope is to stay in this model as long as possible. And when I look at the numbers later on, I'll talk about why I believe right now we are safe to stay in it. But we have to keep an eye that I think every day we're still in school. And when you heard the kids talk today about their favorite thing was being back in school, every day we're back is kind of a gift. because, it is, when we look at the numbers, I'll talk about why I think that might be. So behavioral service contract. So just a background for us. Most of the board knows this, but the community, we have a behavioral services contract. And what that is an overview. It serves 44 of our students who have highly specific needs. And our contract is with a group called Breton Associates. And they send into our district every day and to the homes. So some of these workers actually go into the homes with the students and work with them there too. They have 7 board certified behavior specialists, and they are kind of like leaders of groups, right? They're the teachers of the clinical assistants, and they collect data, provide data that gives us a lot of information to find out to meet the students' needs. And then 42 clinical assistants, they're the boots on the ground, working one-on-one with kids, making sure every child is getting exactly what they need. These are really valuable services, and they're very purposeful and as I said, valuable services. Walking us back where we've been for last month, over the last month, we've been in negotiations with Breton Associates, in that they wanted to look at the contract, open it back up, talk about it, and we've come to a resolution. All the problems have been solved, but there's a little bit of rough road along the way. And as I said earlier, when I was talking to some of the people, I learned a lot, and there's some things we should have done better. But ultimately, services that our students need are in place. They're not going to be disrupted and all of those things. So in the end, it worked out. Unfortunately, we caused some angst for some families and for some board members. And so that's just part of this explanation. So when we were going through this process in the negotiation piece, we sent out a letter on December 2nd, and the letter wasn't clear. I think it was not a clear letter, and it caused some angst and stuff and those things, in that it didn't fully explain to the families what their children would be experiencing or not experiencing, which was a full transition. It made it sound like it would be an abrupt transition. It was not student-centered. I mean, I think we're a student-centered district. Our communications at this point, we're not that, and I apologize for that. It was not done well by me. We followed up with letters on the 4th and the 5th, clarifying, and then finally saying we think we have a resolution. And we hope to be sending a letter to all the families tomorrow saying, problem solved, we've come to a resolution, everything's in place and going forward. And the resolution is that we did resolve the contract with Breton Associates, but we also are diversifying. We're adding other behavioral service contracts in there because that's a better practice to have multiple options for these type of things. So that's a quick overview of that piece. And once again, there were things there that we should have done better. And I apologize to all those people we impacted in a difficult way. Gave angst and anxiety. It wasn't deserved. Wasn't needed. Inclement weather. Excuse me. So right now, this year, because we're in a state of emergency, if there's inclement weather or anything, we can go virtual. We're allowed to do that. However, if we're not in a state of emergency, and I just got this from the county superintendent recently, we're not in a state of emergency. So next year, hopefully, we'll not be in a state of emergency. We cannot make our snow days go virtual unless it's 3 days, consecutive days. So that may change, but I think that Dave talked about, for the reason is, if you have a snow day and you say we're going virtual and no one's ready for it, there may not be devices at home, there may not be things planned, it might be a wasted day. So the Department of Education doesn't want that, because not everyone's going to put practice snow days in, right? We're not going to know to take our computers home those days. So I think that's the reason why. So any snow day discussion, inclement weather, doesn't be snow, is really for this year about it. And there's a couple of schools of thought. So the first thing to look at is a delayed opening. So we get our 2 hour or 1 hour delay. We could call a 2 hour delay. I don't remember last time there's a 1 hour delay. It's always been a 2 hour delay. There's 2 things we can do, right? 3 things we can do. Option 1 is to move everything back 2 hours. So instead of coming in from like 8 to 12:45, you come in 10 to 2:45. The only problem with that is you're right in the middle of your lunchtime, and we're not going to be serving lunch. So that's not really a good option, because now, it just doesn't work the way our bodies work, and especially kids. And if you have children, which I have, they need to eat in the middle of the day, right? So having them just say, tough it out till 2:45 is a really bad answer. Option 2 would be start at 10 and end at 12:45 for a 2.5 or 2 and 3/4 hour day. Also not a good answer. right? Because by the time you get here, you get the boots on. I think the Christmas store, you put all the coats on, you get there, you come back, you're wasting time there. So what will happen is if there's enough weather for a 2-hour delay, we'll probably shift to full virtual, right? Because that way we can just do the morning in and the asynchronous in the afternoon and get that done. If you get a heavy snow or really heavy snow, there's a couple of things you can do. You can shift to full virtual, or you can close schools and use the makeup days. I had a conversation with my leadership team. I was beckoning back to my youth, and Chuck was going to say, it's a snow day. Kids need to be out playing in the snow. That's the number one priority, a snow day. Was not the consensus of the leadership team. We're going to say, listen, we have this device to go with a full virtual. It would be instruction in the morning, asynchronous in the afternoon. The kids can play in the snow in the afternoon. And really the big point that they made that I agree with them is that if we use the snow days, we're going to be eating more into our spring break, which already lost a day. And if things go well and everything goes the way we want it to go, there are days where people maybe actually do something, right? Hopefully we can be traveling. Hopefully those things can happen by then. And we wouldn't want to burn the days now to eat that time up. So ultimately, our decision is going to be any snow that means we can't get into the building is going to be a virtual day. No 2-hour delay, which is going to be either in school with the cohort or we will be a virtual snow day.
This is school year 2021 to 2022.
2019, or this year, 2021.
Into 2022. Or you mean this particular?
Just this calendar year. Next year, if we're not in a state of emergency, we can't go virtual. It has to be a canceled day.
So Chuck, so that kind of looks like a Wednesday, right? So even though you would still follow the half day.
It's not a Wednesday because Wednesday doesn't have it would be more like a regular Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday. But instead of half the kids being in school, they'll all be home.
How many? The only reason I brought up Wednesday is Wednesday's a mostly virtual day.
Right.
What is the percentage of the teachers that have to come in and rely on the equipment here and the internet here to even teach on a full remote day?
Well, last week we were full remote and everyone was able to work from home, so they'd be able to do that.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. Like, are they prepared to be home to?
Hopefully, if we get the weather forecast, we'll put a name up. Make sure you have your stuff home so you can work.
Sure. Okay.
Looking at our COVID numbers, we have a total of 53 cases. Seven of them I call active because they're in the last 14 days. And you can look and see where they are. They have one high school student. Actually, we have another student added on later this afternoon that I missed in this. So there's actually 8 active cases going on. And you can see we have in this, there's going to be 4 students actually and 4 staff members. Here's number of students home and staff home based on COVID. The second part here is why we closed last week. Right? Because coming off of the holiday, we were worried about surging and contact tracing. There's one person, a district-wide staff member, who we contact traced and said, you have to stay home for your 10 days until you get your testing and stuff done. Because we were out last week. So all the positive cases, the 6 positive cases that came out this week, didn't affect school because they came up over the week. And you can see the quarantines at the bottom, of course, with close contact. Those are total number of quarantines throughout, which is way down. So this is our total by week, ending on Thursdays, our total positive COVIDs for the year. The red is staff members and the blue are students. This chart does reflect the student today, who we found out around 3 o'clock was positive. You can see where our spike was when we closed the high school and had a number of kids in the high school there. And even though we were off last week, we still had positive cases reported, so that's in our report here. This is by grade level, so you can see by grade band. So you can see the yellow is high school cases. The red is going to be our middle school cases, and the blue is our pre-K to 5. So you can see, as we all know all along, that the high school kids, there's more of it going on, and as Evie pointed out, if they had a senior sleep out, we might see more of those coming back around because the cases, we have not had any confirmed transmissions in school. The cases we're finding are coming from outside of school. And finally, this is our quarantining numbers. So, you look at those numbers where it's at one point it was over 400 district-wide staff and students, and then the dip there on the week of 12/3. That's because we were out. We weren't quarantining then, and we have our quarantine numbers back under control. So that was part of that strategy, which seemed to be effective. The Cali scores we look at, we are still technically in orange, which is high. Camden County is one of the higher counties in the state for these numbers. The Southeast region, which is where we are, is one of the higher regions too. The whole state's over for case rate. It's over 25. That's statewide. So the number you're looking at now, when we were talking with Dr. Nowako yesterday, the two numbers he was talking about were the transmission rate, which Camden County is 1.06, which is down from last week. It was 1.08 2 weeks ago. And the percent positivity, because that shows how much testing is being done. If we have adequate testing, that way you know how much is spreading. And that number becomes critical when it hits 20. So you see the southwest region, we're 14.6. Camden County is above that. They're about 16. Haddonfield Borough is 7. So at Haddonfield Borough, the percent positivity is 7 right now. It was 5 last week. So the borough, or Haddonfield, is below the county by a significant number in that particular statistic. And there are any questions or comments on those?
Just there was comments from the public, and I think you were very clear in a communication to the district. I just want you to reiterate, we listened to the Southwest sectional numbers and the county superintendent. The Department of Education will have opinions, the CDC has opinions, but we officially listen to the county superintendent.
Correct. We listen to the county superintendent. Decisions on closing schools is
It's
entirely
yours.
me, right?
Yes.
But that happens entirely me. But we get guidance from the county Department of Health and the county superintendent. So we now meet weekly with superintendents from around the county and the county Department of Health, Dr. Nowako, and the county superintendent. And he reviews the numbers, we look at trends, we talk about what's happening. But I'll give a good example of what you're saying is the quarantine, which the CDC said can go down to 10 days for certain reasons. In the New Jersey Department of Health, it says the local Department of Health decides whether you accept that. So we waited to hear from Dr. Nowako and the Camden County Department of Health of whether they were going to move the 14-day to 10-day, which they finally did. They did not for the first couple of days. We were communicating out saying, we're waiting to hear from them. That's when the communication went out. We're looking at 10 days quarantine too.
So that's our chain of communication.
Correct, yes. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
John, you can start to flip the side. But before we take calls, my only update is we lost a lifelong Haddonfieldian this week. Dr. Charles Tortolat passed away at an old age of 89. He was at one time a board member and board president who was instrumental in the building of the C Wing, which we're sitting in right now. In addition to many other things that he did for the town, environmental commission, raised his family here, his children, some of his children are still here, I'm not sure. But it's sad to see that he had passed, but he had a good long life, and the community is appreciative of his service. I just wanted to say that.
Sure.
Now we're going to open up the floor to public comments. So the way this works, if you have not seen or done it before, we're going to put a screen on the YouTube broadcast. If you wish to comment, dial the number, join the meeting. We ask you to press *6 on your phone, which will mute your phone. If you would listen on your phone and not on your device once you've called in, so we don't have an echo, mute your device and listen on your phone. I'm going to call out the last 2 digits, the area code and last 2 digits of your phone number, much like we're playing bingo. I will call your number and then you'll be invited to make your comment. By policy, our comments are 3 minutes long. We ask you to, we'll remind you at 3 minutes that you have to wrap it up. That's so that everyone has a chance to comment. Just so you're not surprised, we usually We don't answer questions because we like to research and be sure we are giving you proper information. The floor will be yours. I see a caller, 609 ending in 43. Could you *6 and unmute your call?
Hey, Adam, it's Rachel. Can you hear me?
Yes, Rachel, just as a course, I'm going to tell you, but so anybody else calls in, just say your name and the street you live on, but I know you know this, Rachel, I just forgot to say.
Okay, it's Rachel Gould. I'm one of the co-presidents of the ATA. Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. First, I just wanted to send a little thank you to Tom Vecchio and the rest of the negotiations team. Sean and I are really appreciative of the hard work and open communication it took from both sides to reach this settlement, and look forward to hopefully having all of you ratify this tonight during your next exec session. I called in tonight really to speak on behalf of many of the members of our association. We began this year with trepidation and fears over the unknown that this pandemic may bring. And after spending the last few months of last school year exhausting all of our resources and creatively redesigning curriculum to adjust to new remote school platform, we began this year yet again adjusting our curriculum to the new hybrid model of teaching. While the beginning of the school year had us anxious, the increase in cases in our community, the school, county, state, and across the country has many feeling extreme fear and unrest. A large focus of the past year and a half has been on social and emotional health. And one of the first things we learned from that ruler platform is the importance of maintaining the social and emotional health of our staff so that we can best manage the emotional needs of our students. As our levels of fear increase, our ability to manage this stress and that of our students has become overwhelming. While all of our students' families have the options to adjust their children to remote learning, either permanently or temporarily, so they can see family this holiday season, our staff does not have that option. While we appreciate the caution exerted the week after Thanksgiving, offering the remote learning week, we just urge the administration and the Board of Education to evaluate the increase in cases in our community and neighboring communities and afford us some time to quarantine so that we too can be able to visit family for the holidays. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys all have a nice holiday with your family.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Adam.
Let's see if we have any other callers.
We did. Somebody just left.
All right, we'll give a couple seconds. Okay, we'll close the meeting, the open comment portion of the meeting, and we will move on to our agenda, which we can get it done in 11 minutes. I will win it. All right. Someone called in, let's take it. 609 ending in 21. You could *6 and unmute.
Hi, Adam. It's Nicole McGrarty. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Nicole McGrarty. This is Choose Landing Road. I was just listening to the board meeting and I was a little confused. Did I just hear a request from the teachers to go virtual so they can go and see their families over the holidays? Just looking for some clarification on where that came from. I thought Chuck did a great job of explaining that there has been no transmission between the children and the teachers or the staff. So I'm just a little perplexed by the ask. Can you kind of, I guess, reiterate what was said? It was very quick and kind of a little jumbled.
I don't know, Nicole. It was a little jumbled. I'm going to go back to the tape and listen. I will probably get clarification if there was a request in there. It sounded like there was, but I gotta re-listen.
Okay, I appreciate you trying to clarify that. If you can just I guess I'll re-listen to the tape, but if there is that ask, I would hope that the public as a whole would be notified of that ask, because that's a big change in direction from where we are right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that would be, I'm sure we obviously would be part of public.
Sure, yes.
Okay, thanks, Nicole.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great holiday.
Sure, you too. All right. Let's get to the agenda. So 10, governance. We are going to accept the monthly HIV suspension, vandalism, and violence report as submitted by the Assistant Superintendent. The fire and security drills, the academic calendars for the elementary, middle, and high school for first reading, policy approvals that Lynn mentioned in her update. For first reading, we have 5 policies, and a second reading and adoption, we have 1 policy. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Jamie and Dave, any discussion? Mike?
Mr. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Slidell?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio?
Yes.
Ms. Crooked?
Yes.
Ms. Hoag?
Yes.
Ms. Paoli?
Yes.
President Sangelo?
Yes. Okay, curriculum and special ed, we have 2 student resolutions, supplemental tutoring and homebound instruction. We have 2 new courses at the high school. We have 2 new courses at the middle school. We have course revisions. We have 6 of those. A resolution to add an addendum to the contract with Novi that and Associates that Mr. Klaus updated us about. We are also having a resolution with Amazing Transformations and the Stepping Stones group. Can I get a motion?
I'll move that.
David?
Second.
Tom? Discussion? Mike?
Mr. Bedford?
Yes.
Vice President Seidel?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio?
Yes.
Ms. Crooked?
Yes.
Ms. Hoag?
Yes.
Ms. Paoli?
Yes.
President Sangelo?
Yes. Okay, personnel, we are approving new personnel transfers, salary upgrades, mentoring, extracurricular coaching appointments, leaves of absences, and resignations per the attachment. And we are approving salaries to come from Title I funds for 2 staff members. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Lynn?
Second.
Justin? Discussion? Mike?
Vice President Seidel?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio?
Yes.
Ms. Crooked?
Yes.
Ms. Hoag?
Yes.
Ms. Paoli?
Yes.
Mr. Bedford?
Yes.
President Sangelo?
Yes. Okay, we're approving the MOA for the, we're actually tabling 13A. Dave, you are our.
That's right.
So we'll table that, and I don't have to say that, that doesn't take a separate motion? Okay. So 13B will be approving the resolution to renew our membership in the GIF for another 3 years. We're going to have, we're accepting a generous memorial scholarship from Richard McClay Creamer in the amount of $50,000. We're approving Capehart and Scatcherd as our negotiations, labor and personnel council. We're approving a change order with the Levi Construction Company for the security vestibules in the amount of $1,400. We're approving the memorial the Haddonfield Sea Wing Hardscape project. We're amending our long-range facilities plan, approving to amend it, and we are approving the payment of bills, budget transfers, board secretary's report, and the cash summary report. Motion?
Do we get to discuss it? Oh, no, I'm sorry, after.
Yeah.
Motion.
Second.
Tom, Jamie, discuss?
So, Adam, I had a question about 13G. We're approving to amend it, but there's nothing there to review.
Yeah, this is just because we're statutorily required to have to update it.
Mike, speak up.
This is really up. So This is so actually the item right before it, we won't be able to submit our application without amending it. It's really an update that it's not totally revamping and putting together a real plan. It's actually just taking what's already in place.
Okay.
And
You're saying to approve the item before that. I know a couple of meetings ago, Susan gave an update, and I know she's not here today, so if you don't know, that's okay, but where do we stand with that update?
you okay if I update everybody with that? Sure.
What's that?
Are you okay if I update everybody with that?
Sure.
So, we actually met after our last Finance and Facilities Committee meeting to discuss this. So we tried to do this through a change order with our current contractor through the AHU addition. There's a law in place where you're not allowed to have a change order more than 20% of the original contract. Well, the price they came back to do that work was more than 20%. So now we're going to have to pay to do that.
And to be clear, the change of the air handler unit wasn't 20%. It was the addition of the hardscaping that made it bigger than 20%.
Right.
Right. So it wasn't even grossly wrong on the AHU.
The AHU actually came back under budget, right?
Oh, it came back way under budget, correct.
And I wanted to point out that the other acceptance for the change order for the vestibule project is also a deduction that came in under budget. One of the advantages of not having to work around students, for some of that time, probably really helped.
Any other discussion? Mike?
Mr. Vecchio,
Yes.
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
Ms. Hope,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Mr. Benford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
President Sangelo.
Yes. Okay, approving the minutes for the regular meeting on November 12th and 19th and our executive session on the 19th.
Move.
David Lynn? Any need? Mike?
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
Ms. Hope,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Mr. Benford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio,
Yes.
President Sangelo.
Yes. All right, we're going to, let's take out the items for future consideration of the board. You want anything to discuss other than us all having a nice holiday season? Celebrating all tonight's the first night of Hanukkah? Yes.
When is Judy coming in to discuss the, view of the Haddonfield graduate? Do you have that scheduled?
We're looking for probably January, February, probably maybe the second meeting in January for that.
Anything else? Okay, we're gonna
I
vote.
make a motion to go back into executive session to discuss 13A.
So moved. So we're gonna have John, you're gonna shut that off. We're gonna close the meeting down, the Google Meet, so that we can be
Oh, nobody stuck around.
Can you, it's not bad.
You guys are live.
All right, thanks, Chris. So we are, we're back in public session to vote on,
13A.
13A. Right?
No, B, isn't it?
No, 13A.
13A.
Okay, so we're voting to approve the memorandum of agreement for successor collective negotiations agreement with the HEA. Can we get a motion?
Motion.
Thomas? Justin, let's discuss anything you want to discuss in public. Okay, Mike?
Mr. Vecchio,
Yes.
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
Ms. Hoag,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Mr. Bedford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
President Sanjello.
Yes. Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Heather and David?